Hey, Mike. What? Who's got next?
What is good, y'all? It's your man, Hezo. Welcome back to the Blacktop. So it's time, man. It's time to bring back the NBA What If series. It's been a slow offseason. Not a lot going on. Not a ton to talk about. I wanted to bring this series back a little bit over a month ago or so. I put it on pause throughout the NBA playoffs. I wanted to bring it back recently, but I just haven't had any time to get any episodes recording, with my, my marriage and everything like that. Now we've been house shopping, all those type of things. I had a lot going on, but it's back, man. It is time to get it cracking back with this series. So if y'all are unfamiliar with the series, what I do is every Wednesday go through some of the biggest what if scenarios throughout NBA history, and we just talk about it. We talk about what could have happened, what should have went down, all those type of things, and just talk about it in the perspective of how it would have affected NBA history. If y'all enjoy this type of basketball content, please consider hitting that subscribe button down low, drop a like on the video, and let's get right into it. So maybe y'all have an idea based off of the jersey that I have on what this topic is about to be for this what if. One of the biggest what if scenarios throughout NBA history, still talked about to this day, even 12 years later, and that is in fact the Chris Paul trade to the Lakers that was vetoed by David Stern. And this is a trade that would have shaken up the entire NBA. Kobe had just came off a championship. Chris Paul was in the middle of his prime in New Orleans, wanted out of New Orleans. And I think we all understand what this trade could have done for mainly Chris Paul's career. Because at this time, Kobe's career was pretty much already solidified. And in my eyes, at the top 5 player, I have him as top 3. If you don't have him as top 5, I don't want to talk about basketball with you, because in my opinion, that's just nonsense. That's another topic for another day. Now, I'll be honest, I think Chris Paul is a little bit overrated as a player. But when he was at his peak in New Orleans, when he was in his prime, in the middle of his prime, he really was the best point guard in the NBA, and I don't think it was a debate. Now, if y'all are unfamiliar with the trade, I'm not going to get into all the trade details. I will throw up the trade details on the screen. Basically, the basic moving parts: Chris Paul to LA, Pau Gasol to the Rockets, and Lamar Odom, I think, going back to the Hornets. Those were the 3 main pieces. But of course, the Lakers getting a prime Chris Paul to pair with a prime Kobe Bryant. We all saw what an aging Chris Paul did with a prime Devin Booker. Just imagine the damage that this Lakers team would have done if if Kobe had an elite point guard at the time like a Chris Paul. Now, Kobe was a little bit older. I think he was 32, maybe 33 years old at the time. I don't remember. Don't check me, you know what I'm saying? Don't check me on that. I don't exactly remember how old he was, but he was a little bit aging. He did not make another finals run after the 2010 championship that he was on. But there's no doubt in my mind that if they get rid of Pau Gasol, who was also starting to age, who was starting to slow down, if they move him and get a Chris Paul in return and then work around the edges for the rest of that team, there's no doubt in my mind the Lakers would have been back in the NBA Finals to face off against the Miami Heat in 2011. And there's no doubt in my mind that the Lakers would have won at least one championship with Chris Paul and Kobe. Now, a lot of you probably think, well, Hezo, if you think Chris Paul's overrated, why do you think they would have won? Look, man, Chris Paul, even though I think he's overrated, he's still an all-time great point guard, you feel me? And if he's in his prime and he's playing with a guy like Kobe, who we know shows up in big moments, who we know is a champion, who we know is a former MVP, who we know gets the deal done, got ice in his veins, Mamba mentality, the black fucking Mamba. We know that Kobe and Chris Paul would have been the best duo in the NBA at that time, because Kobe was still in his prime. He was towards the end, but he was still one of the top 5 best players in basketball, and it's not a debate. Now, how many championships would they have won? I'm not going to go as far as to say they would have won 3 or 4 championships in a row. I'm not going to go that far. With Kobe aging, I think they would have gotten at least 1, maybe 2. It all depends on what the rest of the roster would look like, but I think they would have ran through the Western Conference. I think they would have been the favorites in the Western Conference for the next at least 2 to 3 years, and I feel like it would have been the Lakers and the Heat battling it out in the NBA Finals at least for the next 2 seasons. And then obviously you got to throw the Spurs in the mix in the Western Conference, especially once they got Kawhi and all that. But let's talk about what this would have done for Chris Paul's career. I think if you don't have him as top 5 point guard all time, which I do not, I think this solidifies him as probably not just a top 5 point guard, but a top 3 point guard of all time with that championship if he would have ended up going to LA with Kobe. Now, we all know Chris Paul has had his playoff struggles, but I don't think that would have been the case if he's playing with Kobe. We all know that the reason why David Stern vetoed this trade was because the Lakers would have been too good. The league didn't like Kobe. A lot of people didn't like Kobe. But I truly believe that the league hated Kobe. They didn't want to see him win. And that is why David Stern ended up vetoing this trade, which, listen, man, if you go throughout NBA history, there is not a lot of trades that have been vetoed. And I think it is nonsense that if two teams are agreeing to a deal, why would you go as far to veto this trade, Litland? If you look at almost every trade throughout NBA history, somebody gets finessed a lot of the time. And the Lakers would have been winning this trade by a long shot. David Stern looked at that. He said, nope, not going to do it. Next thing you know, Chris Paul eventually ends up in the other side of LA with the Clippers, and the rest is history. Now, I talked about, what it would have done, obviously, for Chris Paul's career, right? Maybe top 3 point guard of all time. Some people may even have him as the greatest point guard of all time. I'm not going to do that. That's pure nonsense. But I would probably have him in the top 3 to 5. But let's talk about Kobe's career for just a moment. If he goes and wins another championship, that now ties him with Mike, more than likely would probably win a Finals MVP, which would then be his 3rd Finals MVP, 6 championships, 3 Finals MVPs. That's a strong, and I mean strong case for maybe the GOAT in some people's eyes. Again, I'm not going to go there, but he 1,000%. If you don't have him in your top 10, top 5, at that point, you most certainly would almost have to, or else you just don't know basketball. It's that simple. I have Kobe as the 2nd or 3rd best player of all time. I go back and forth between him and LeBron. I'm a Kobe fan, so I often, will always take Kobe over LeBron. That's just my opinion. You can disagree if you'd like. But not everybody looks at that way. Not everybody looks at Kobe that way. Not everybody, does their ranking that way. But I feel like Kobe was robbed of a chance to win maybe another 2 championships. Maybe he passes Mike and gets to 7. Y'all think about that for a second. If Kobe would have won 2 more championships, that would have been not only another three-peat, because they had just came off a championship in 2010, that would have had him at 7 championships, 1 more than Mike. I feel like at that point, man, Kobe would be the GOAT. He really would be the GOAT in my eyes, and I don't think it could be disputed at that point. I mean, obviously you have people that would disagree. It's so, it's such an subjective. Y'all get the hell what I'm trying to say. It's such an opinionated argument that there's really no telling which direction, that you would go with it. But just maybe, if Chris Paul goes to the Lakers, maybe Kobe doesn't get hurt. Maybe he doesn't tear his Achilles. Maybe history is a little bit different. And maybe he has a longer career and a little bit better career towards the end of his career and has more chances to win. You just never know. That's why it's a what if. And it's a fun what if to talk about. I'm going to pretty much leave it there. Not too much more to dive into for this what if. Now, I'm thinking about doing a top 5 ranking at each position for NBA history, top 5 players at each position. If y'all want to see those videos, let me know down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this what if scenario. How many championships do you think, if any, that Chris Paul and Kobe would have won together as a duo? Drop a like on the video, and I will catch y'all next episode.